That's group stalking. That's the bleach blonde senior citizen. She's going to federal prison. And terrorists such as this third party, she's a severely mentally ill, demon possessed third party. But understand that this is the state of California, that's going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism in the US. But with regard to prosecuting the people who are going to be punished for engaging and facilitating in the ways what you see here, you need to look at this is a floor lamp. These are closed blinds. This is on the outside engineered light that's appearing underneath a covered patio, and it's illuminating the interior underneath the patio. That's impossible light activity. It's also coming inside of the apartment. It's also going at an upward trajectory. Not only is this concentrated light across the ceiling, and you can see my shadow as I move my finger, okay? That's not sunlight. And you're also paying attention, directed light going in multiple directions downward, shooting directly into, and also you're looking at what is engineered light just sprawling across the ceiling. As I move my hand, that's not sunlight, okay? This is on the inside of an apartment building. The sun is outside. Sunlight is not that which is ricocheting on the inside. It's not that which is going to move all across. It's not going to create your shadow above, but then also you're looking at, when I continue to take pictures of engineered lights going across the ceiling behind the door, down the wall, which you saw. I took a picture of this at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's the exact same position. It has nothing to do with the fake sun that's rising on this side of the apartment building and remaining all day long, setting on this side of the apartment building. This is not sunlight on the inside. This is called impossible light activity. This is engineered light. This is directed light. While a demon that knows exactly everywhere that I'm going, knows exactly everything I'm doing on a communication device, which represents the people, while you are being surrounded with engineered light going in all manner of direction, that's going across the ceiling, while a very imprudent defendant, because that's what she is. She's going to federal prison. You also need to understand the loss of all state and federal housing benefits. Woodside Senior Apartments providing low-income housing to terrorists. This is literally a violation and literally contradicting the point of providing housing benefits. It's not to aid and support and house terrorism, which is what they're doing. This is why the Ontario Police are group stalking in helicopters at the Woodside Senior Apartments. This is why a fake sun, the identification of the crime scene, were demons and engineered light, which is distinct from the fake sun that has nothing to do with this engineered light that's appearing along the ceiling, along the walls inside. It's not sunlight. It is also understanding what is the intent to do so. That's a sex offender that acts with impunity. She doesn't even want those housing benefits. The people of the state are going to experience homelessness because they will not be able to afford rent, and there will be no federal or state housing program that's going to provide based on their criminal record for domestic terrorism, which is an exceedingly violent sex offense. You're going to be prosecuted for it, and it will be the basis of disqualification. You will receive no housing benefits. And I want to be clear, the entity is engaging in this while she's also going to federal prison. You're not just losing your housing benefits, you're going to federal prison. There is no natural environment that includes this. Okay, in other words, speak in terms of the natural environment. That's not the sun that will be over the windshield at Woodside Senior Apartments, where I'm showing you that light source. Necessarily the light source. It's 2:45 p.m. If you recall my video documentation, I'm at the Victorville Holiday Inn at 15494. That's over my room at 427 facing that parking lot. The same parking lot where I'm at 8:48 in the morning. You see that light source, not over Woodside Senior Apartment. You see it directly over me at Victorville Holiday Inn in Victorville, California. That is not going to be seen reflected through some windshield. And you can clearly see that in the evidence. No rocket scientist is necessary in order to understand the recognition of a crime scene. Not only is that speaking to the presence of the light, it's necessarily in a position not in Victorville, nowhere near Victorville's the Palmdale Road Holiday Inn, but it's also necessarily here over the property such that it's reflecting over the windshield of an identified third party. The environment is speaking directly to the criminal engagement in the statewide system. I'm also telling you because the position of that light source over that windshield is not creating this impossible light activity that's appearing underneath the covered structure. You are comparing what's happening at the Palmdale Holiday Inn because you're understanding the impossibility. Even on its face, this is not the product of sunlight, and it's also not the product of sunlight where the sun in its entirety is over my hotel room window at the same time. The two are not possible, and that's why you document it. So this demon that's losing her federal and state housing benefits because no low-income housing is going to support sex offenders or terrorists, all right, that act with impunity, and their demon possession is known through their criminal engagement. This demon is engaged in 24-hour conduct. It is called stalking with audible activity. The sound of a cracking ceiling, that's not the product of a normal person that's walking around in their apartment. I'm not going to hear you walking. I'm not going to hear you vacuuming. The demon is maintaining 24-hour surveillance because the demon is stalking in the path while I remain in the living room. And you also know that beyond a reasonable doubt with regard to prosecuting the state, because that's not the son that's going to be here and also over the Victorville Holiday Inn. The entity is maintaining what is a demonic soundtrack. So the demon does not have to be in their apartment, in other words, for that demonic soundtrack to coexist with my physical movement in engineered light under a fake sun. Understand that this is demonic activity. However, because the entity is employing the demonic, which shall no longer be the basis for criminal defamation that is falsely depicting the targeted individual, where a bunch of demons are trying to falsely depict you as suffering from a mental illness because their mental illness, being an absolute psychopath as an entity, is supposed to be the evidence for which they kidnap you, or the evidence for where they murder you and then claim it's suicide. Understand the level of malice there. They're going to federal prison. Everybody in apartments 33 through 64 are all going to federal prison. That's called crossing a path. You've seen him do the exact same thing at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, and he's group stalking again. Him and his daddy are going to federal prison. Okay, this is the light source right here. That has nothing to do with the impossible light you see on the ceiling inside of this apartment. That's understanding the intent. The entity, this is pacing. When you see two bodies going in opposite directions, those demons are pacing. This is literally the living dead. It's not I Am Legend. It's not a movie. This is real life. Those are demons who are group stalking together. You're recognizing what they're doing in the spirit. It's also in violation of existing laws and federal laws that are going to be enforced in the United States. And it's the prosecution of the state of California. This is not the son that's still at this property as a matter of documentation at 7:18 in the morning. This is not the son that's over my hotel room window at the Victorville Holiday Inn in Victorville, California. The two are not possible, but yet you see it through the windshield of the vehicle. It's unmistakable evidence, and it has nothing to do with the engineered light that's appearing on the ceiling. You see the images of engineered light that's appearing on the floor, appearing and disappearing. The entity that is the fake sun has nothing to do with my body being molested with engineered light while Tracy Banks opens the door. Understand all the ways in which the entity is engaging in what is demonstrating impunity. That means not only you're going to federal prison, but the federal judge is going to interpret your criminal conduct, the fact that you don't care that you're going to federal prison, and neither will they when you are sentenced. Nobody cares. No sex offender, no terrorist is going to be missed on the streets in California. Okay? The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct in a very imprudent manner. In other words, what the entity will learn, what everybody else in the world and in this country is going to respect and understand, is when the target individual begins documenting, because you have no business engaging in state surveillance, understand how the engineered light disappears. It's not even sunlight. And all the entity is doing is cycling engineered light and the fake sun, two distinct methods of recognizing the crime scene. Where sex offenders are living at a crime scene, you go to federal prison for that. You want to work at a crime scene, such as Avanath's employee in apartment 41, who's group stalking by walking outside of that apartment. You'll see him doing the exact same thing at 5 o'clock in the evening under the fake sun with the Ontario PD. You'll see them doing the exact same thing at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning under the fake sun that's still here. They're intentionally doing so. Those are sex offenders keeping a woman under surveillance, a woman who they know, I'm not welcoming, you're monitoring my genitalia, and they continuously do it. Those are sex offenders, and they're going to be prosecuted. They're going to federal prison. Avanath shall be civilly and criminally prosecuted because they have the criminal nerve to profit while they're engaged in state surveillance, acting in furtherance of the state's conspiracy to murder and kidnap someone while employing the demonic. You see the engineered light that disappears off of the ceiling and all along the patio, but the engineered light remains stationary. This is what you'll see at 10 o'clock in the morning. It has nothing to do with the fake sun. All right, but what you are learning is not only is this not not sunlight, you're understanding what has nothing to do logically with how sunlight is going to appear. It's also not possible when it's literally over my hotel room. For one example, at Holiday Inns, at 15494, the Victorville Holiday Inn on Palmdale Road. Okay, not the product of sunlight. Neither is it when it's appearing and disappearing. This is the prosecution. This is Satan teaching you how Satan is using a corrupt government in California. Satan is using a population. And just, I want to be clear, you're recognizing how Satan is not your friend. And Satan is laughing at you when you suffer the consequences for what you allowed Satan to use you to do. That's what this is showing while the engineered light is appearing and disappearing. It is the work of Satan. They are intentionally and knowingly. You can't blame Satan in federal court. They are intentionally and knowingly maintaining presence, obsessively stalking with audible activity, obsessively stalking in the path, obsessively stalking by living at a crime scene. You will be prosecuted not based on your date of move-in, but because you are intentionally and knowingly maintaining the criminal elements of monitoring. That is demons in the demonic environment, intentionally stalking with noise, intentionally stalking with light activity, intentionally stalking in the path in the way that you just saw. At the same time I opened my front door, that sex offender lying in wait was waiting for me to open the door so that he could walk past. In the same way that demon, that female, they were crossing paths together. Those demons were pacing right in front of your face, while that which is not the product of sunlight is remaining over this and appearing inside of the I wanted to say hotel, excuse me, inside of the apartment. Okay, this is where the documented sunrise is at 7:18 in the morning. That's also understanding you're looking at the demonic when you're seeing them walk around, when you're hearing them walk around above. That's a demon. That's a demon. You're recognizing demon possession. You're prosecuting federal group stalking and monitoring, which is demonic activity. It is literally the practice of witchcraft. Okay, the entity is engaging in what shall be recognized under federal law, however, and the prosecution of human beings who serve Satan. Okay, this is understanding, in other words, the demonic, which is being punished in the natural. Okay, so the entity is engaging in this, and this is the state of California that's practicing witchcraft. The government, the mayors, the council members, the demon that's a violent sex offender, Alan D. Wapner. He has demons crawling inside of commercial planes and the group stalking under a fake sun and engineered light while they're engaged in federal stalking, in sync with this demon that's inside of apartment 55, okay? And in sync with the demon that's Tracy Banks, who's group stalking right now, even while that demon walks away. She's witnessing her exposure, which is the state for all of, and by state I mean the same condition, the same status of the demon-possessed entity whose sexual violence, whose mental illness, and whose criminal enterprise is being fully exposed, okay? This has nothing to do with sunlight. It's also not going to appear underneath a covered structure. And you also know that it's not the explanation for what you already saw in here. You've already seen engineer light moving all across this witch's bedroom wall. That's a demon, that's a sex offender. And so are they using commercial airline planes from the Ontario International Airport. So are they walking outside of their apartments, pacing in engineer light under a fake sun, which has nothing to do with the ongoing evidence of federal group stalking and monitoring and at a private, it's supposed to be a private residence, but it's not. The crime scene is speaking to what is a facilitating venue, and everybody at this venue is going to be prosecuted. And all the demons inside of apartments 33 through 64, they're all going to federal prison for an exceedingly violent sex offense, for intolerable facilitation, for federal stalking, for communicating the impermissible threat. That is where the target individual begins documenting, the government shall cease from engaging in it. Or you have hundreds of people who are going to federal prison. There are those who are going to federal prison for engaging in group stalking, period. The police have no business engaging in criminal surveillance, for example. Okay, those group stalking with the police, you're going to federal prison. The entity wants to engage in, remember, years of documentation. Years. You have what are the senior citizens. No one's going to miss them. There's Social Security benefits that go right back into the state treasury. This is a lot of resolutions that are built in to the prosecution of the state of California. Those that will no longer benefit from housing benefits while you're engaging in terrorism, engaging in sexual violence. It's going on your criminal record. And if you survive the time in federal prison, you will have a hard time finding anywhere where you can live. It's going to be a matter of a criminal record that's going to follow them. All right. This is impossible light activity while the engineer light appears and disappears on the floors, on the ceilings, and on the walls. And all you're doing is paying attention to the body of evidence, because none of this is the product of sunlight, nor can it coexist with the light source that's remaining over Holiday Inn at Victorville, the latest venue where I just returned. The entity engages in exposing mental illness, the ongoing maintenance of the environment, which is not evidence that it's natural. It's the ongoing wealth of evidence so you can witness the demonic. This is P.O.C. Where the fake sun is here. That is not over hotel room window 427 over the parking lot, where you'll see them driving an engineer light. You saw the video evidence. The entity is keeping the fake sun at 5:23 in the afternoon. It is never leaving. You're looking at crossing a path in plain sight. This is state surveillance. That's a sex offender pacing, all right, and going to federal prison with his daddy. Okay, they engage in this conduct while they know that they're being documented, and they're under a fake sun that's in the same exact position at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. That's the scientific impossibility. That's the intent of a population that is demon possessed and highly unintelligent. It's exposing the malice with which the state engages in that pattern of conduct. If you'll recall, the entity is group stalking at 12:31 and helicopter flying directly over this hotel apartment building. And it's the same conduct that a demon on foot is engaging in. The Ontario police were pacing in a helicopter where the fake sun is over this apartment at 12:31 in the afternoon. The entity has the fake sun in the same exact position. It's 2:56 in the afternoon. That's recognizing the mentally ill, the sex offender, the demon-possessed domestic terrorist that's group stalking you. The demons, the objective is to move all around in the engineer light, under the light source. None of it is sunlight, none of it, and that's clearly not the sun. And there's only one sun in the natural environment. This is exposing to you, in other words, what surrounds you. There was never any sun in Miami, Florida. The light source that's over Tyreek Hill at 10:20 in the morning is not the natural environment. It's giving context regarding the legality and or illegality of the arrest that he was subject to in the specific environment, which cannot coexist with what is the body of evidence, what's occurring at Woodside Senior Apartments in the little rinky-dink funky town of Ontario, who's a group stalker. The entire city of Ontario is group stalking. So is the state of California, who's going to be subject to a prosecution. Okay? You have the sex offenders that are pacing in vehicle, pacing on foot, and so is this demon in 55. Her license plate 5WUB as in boy 715. 5WUV 715, and all of this is occurring while Avanath Capital Management LLC, this is a corrupt company engaged in federal stalking and engaged in state surveillance by virtue of making money off of the demons that are paying them rent, making money while their employees are group stalking. That's Avanath employee apartment number 41, group stalking, relevant position. They're going to federal prison. They're also group stalking by engaging in that pattern of conduct while Avanath is profiting. Their employees are group stalking. Avanath shall be civilly and criminally prosecuted. And that was literally Avanath, the employee's son. He's a sex offender, so is his daddy, so is the mother of those minor children. They're all group stalkers documented at all times of the day where the fake sons remaining at the same property. These are demons, a demon-possessed family, group stalking, and they're all sex offenders that have maintained custody over minor children while they're engaged in that pattern of conduct together. What do sex offenders and demons respond with when they're documented? They engage in more psychotic criminal conduct that's going toward their own demise in federal court. That's exposing their mental illness. Also why you're removing minor children from their custody, because that's exactly what the substance of the evidence shows. All right? The entity is doing so in a very specific environment, which has nothing to do with what you saw earlier. Engineer light in the shape of a line appearing, and I take another picture and it disappears, and I take another picture and it's there again. It's not the product of sunlight, ever. Especially when the sun is rising and setting at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, where just like the Ontario police, who are going to be disbanded for what they've been engaging in, the Los Angeles Police Department were engaging in the same exact conduct under a light source that's not possibly the sun, and it's also not over Alvarado Gardens at the same time where you're seeing it hovering over me underneath a patio. All right, where sunlight is never going to be appearing on your ceiling when you're looking at. Very foolish. It's as foolish to engage in a robbery on camera. That's what they're doing while they're group stalking. Okay, that's what they're doing right now. They're group stalking on camera. You're seeing the fake sun. You're seeing the engineer light. You saw my shadow on the ceiling. You're listening to this demon pace around like a dizzy psychopath, and they're all going to federal prison for it. That's the foolishness of the demon possessed who engage in this system. All right, and you're going to recognize it for your own good. It is currently 2:59 p.m. where there's no sun, like I stated, where Lexi's going to federal prison. Lexi and the demons that are group stalking at the Holiday Inn in Victorville, this is prosecuting them. Understand how the entity is prosecuting themselves while they show obsession, group stalking in the specific environment while they're monitoring evidence. Okay, the entity is engaging in that to its own demise. The demons at La Quinta Inn, the demons of the Holiday Inn on Palmdale Road, the demons that are group stalking on Key Point in Hesperia at the Holiday Inn, the demons that were group stalking at the Target across the street at 9 in the morning, the entity's keeping the fake sun over Woodside Senior Apartments where Dante with the city of Ontario is on video group stalking, where so-called sunlight is streaming into the depths of this apartment, and I'm reminding you of that when I'm at La Quinta Inn in Hesperia, California. The two are not happening. It's not the sun. These are demons. And the time is up regarding the secrecy, not sophistication. It's not elite. It's not intelligent. It's just merely secret, and it's exposing public corruption. The cockroaches who want to be looked at in the public eye as having some sort of sense of nobility, having some sort of honor, some sort of beauty, whatever it is that these demons are telling themselves online, telling each other that they're beautiful, that they're celebrities, that they're government officials that are worthy. A whole airport is focused on what's going on with my genitalia inside this apartment while they're hovering over a multi-family zoning area in a manner that is clearly distinct from ever taking off from any Terminal 2 or Terminal 4. For them to be flying west, hovering over the Woodside Senior Apartments. You're never going to hear it, and you certainly wouldn't see it. But the entity is targeting on a common sense level. You also know that they're targeting because it's happening under a fake sun. That's the intent to do so, and you're witnessing all the ways in which state surveillance is underway amongst a demon-possessed population. This is the work of Satan, where you are seeing what is a scientific impossibility, that the sun would be at the same address, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 7:18 a.m. is a documented sunrise is what I have, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 8 hours from a sunrise. It's at the same property. It's literally at the same position over me while I'm capturing the entity group stalking in concert with the people at 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. It's in the same physical position over the corner of this building. The entity is keeping the fake sun also while I'm living, getting up in the morning, rising and setting at Alvarado Gardens, which was the phenomenon that I captured also on video. It's currently on YouTube right now, but you have the entity keeping the fake sun over Woodside Senior Apartments. That is speaking to the intent. Everything that they're doing, every time they're walking by, every time they're driving by, every time they're flying by, every time they're pacing above, that's a demon, that's a psychopath, that's literally walking in circles, and the same thing that the demons do in helicopters. They fly in circles. The demon possessed are mentally ill, very violent sex offenders as well. and their criminal system is fully exposed. Okay, it is currently 3:02 p.m. This is the maintenance of the specific environment at Woodside Senior Apartments, and this is P.O.C.